So, we're on the last day of 2025. It's been an eventful year. I don't actually know where to begin apart from this is the year of the Somali. This has been actually, to be fair, has it been the whole year? It's just been the lot past
No,
since October, right?
I think we've dominated the second, third, and fourth quarter of the year. Um, and that's why we're back, guys. We we could not talk about the year of the Somali.
We were not going to do a podcast until 2026, but we just had to do something to close off the year. And yeah, it's actually getting to me, the anti-Somali hatred. This is worse. This is worse than anything this is worse than any Islamophobia even.
Let's trace this back. When did this anti-Somali agenda first appear in the most recent variation of it? Because of course we grew up in the era of Somali pirates, all the jokes about skinnies, about the famine and famines. But this type of anti-Somali sentiment is new.
Okay, so I do recall before Charlie Kirk was murdered
Mm.
that he was even tweeting, talking shit about
Who's he?
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, okay.
That he was talking shit about Somalis, and I'd say that maybe I don't know. He
Well,
didn't get what he deserved, but
no,
he
but
did not.
but I mean, he is part of a bigger machine, right? This MAGA machine. And I think it, of course, starts with the one and only Queen of Somalia, Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan Omar, yes. So she's the congresswoman for I don't even know what her ward or whatever it's called.
I think it's the fifth. It's in Minnesota, which is the center of the so-called Somali fraud scandal. But we were aware of, by the way, of the Somali fraud scandal when I think I can recall it from about 2022.
I remember it during lockdown period.
Exactly. Because I mean, there was even faces that I recognized from social media that were implicated in it, which is why it was a big scandal in the Somali community. And it was actually, I think, Somalis that blew the whistle initially, because this kind of fraud won't go unnoticed.
At this point, I don't know what we can say as people who live in the United Kingdom about a fraud situation in another country where lots of fraud happens in every single community. So I almost feel like I can actually say with perfect confidence, this has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, and even if we lived in Minnesota, it would have the only way it would have something to do with us is that we were the ones being defrauded, because it was, of course, taxpayers that were being defrauded. But yeah, going back to where this scandal emerged, of course, we remember the xenophobia directed towards Haitians, the during the election cycle, the most recent election cycle, in 2024, when Donald Trump said that they're eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio.
They're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
He couldn't run that again. I think telling the world that a community eats cats and dogs, you can only say that once. But Somalis, we are the gift that keeps giving. Of course, the focus hasn't been on what we eat, it's more on what we take, the other form of
Well,
consumption.
yeah, but the reason why I didn't want to hyper focus on the fraud scandal is because it's boring, just because I believe that fraud is endemic in every community. So I just know that they're jumping on this because it's not a cultural issue. Fraud is something that affects people's bank accounts. So
Mm-mm.
it's not the same as, oh, Afghan men mistreating Afghan women because the rest of the world can just say, well, I'm not an Afghan girl, so that doesn't impact me. But there's something about fraud that makes everyone think, how dare you? You guys are
Mm-mm.
living lavish lives whilst I'm struggling.
Mm-mm.
That kind of thing.
It feeds into a resentment culture that we're seeing around the world, imagining that migrants in the UK, for instance, are getting the brand new iPhones, that they're living off the hog. Because I think the reason behind all of it is that Donald Trump hasn't reduced the price of eggs.
He hasn't reduced the price of eggs, and he also hasn't deported enough people based on the preferred metrics of his base. Like even Nick
Mm,
Fuentes is saying, "Why are you punching down against Somalis when we asked you to just do mass deportations?"
There are only 86,000 Somalis in Minnesota, by the way. America, the United States is what, a population of 350 million? it's insane how much focus. I keep on seeing these tweets saying, wait, I think people are slowly waking up to the fact that this is a psyop because people are saying, wait, hold on, so you're telling me that Somali immigrants are the reason why everything is bad? It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. My concern is that it's going to make its way to the United Kingdom, this one, because it's ripe for the picking. Somalis have
Mhm.
always been the group that people are just desperate to get rid of in the UK,
Yeah,
I believe,
yeah,
because of the that famous statistic of 76% social housing. But
yeah,
even it
yeah.
kind of cuts deep into how the reason I guess why I wanted to do this episode as a bon voyage to 2025 is I do want 2026 to be the year where Somalis showcase the brilliance also in our community, the fact that we do have potential and stuff like that, which sounds very weak and pathetic. But I also feel like, no, I want us to have a better quality of life, and I also want us to be known for good things as well. But it also, the reason why I wanted to say, like, this to me goes back to my childhood, all of this stuff. I
Mm,
think maybe that's why I find it traumatic,
mm.
is growing up, I used to be ashamed to ever mention that my parents, our parents, were on benefits. And I
Is
used
it?
to
Yeah,
pretend that they were
but
both working.
yeah. I mean, they were working. Well, mum was eventually, but
Yeah,
they did.
mum was a cleaner, but remember when you're a white working class cleaner, that's you get seen as it's easy to characterize it as wow, legend, you're really.
It's a noble pursuit when you're a white working class cleaner.
But
But
with mom, it's just the same way any cleaner, like African or Muslim or Hispanic cleaner is seen as just like, well, someone's got to do that job, or you're just, so it wasn't seen as noble, but also when we were in secondary school, mum wasn't doing the cleaning. That's why I was
yeah,
embarrassed to ever say um, that they were on benefits, because I did see that as such a shameful thing.
mm.
And even the state of like our house growing up, stuff where I was just like, I don't want anyone to ever visit us. Which is probably, I guess, why we're so house proud now as we're independent adults because we've made it.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why I don't know the 76% social housing thing does kind of get to me a little bit just because there are many other communities where it is much higher than 50% social housing. Maybe it's not as drastic with the ones edging just at the top.
Mm.
Um, But yeah, I don't know. What do
But do
you
you
make
think?
of what do you make
I
of the reason
don't.
why the question I wanted to ask you is how do you relate everything that you're seeing right now to how you've historically seen yourself as Somali before this, as a child, even as a
Mm.
teenager? Um, I don't think I don't know. That's
I
sort of
know.
what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I know what you mean because it's like, wait, are you telling me that nothing has changed since we were kids? Like when everyone we knew was poor, we knew was in social housing. We were poor, we were in social housing, um, and we were kind of seen as, yeah, the lowest of the low. And to see all of the news about Somalis today being much of the same thing we recall as children and we can confirm was true, it is sad, I can't lie. But it's also very disjointing because it doesn't line up to the Somalis that I know. And maybe I'm thinking, is this me being a nationalist? Because I'm not a nationalist. I'm like the least nationalist person you could meet when it comes to my Somali identity, right? But I genuinely don't see the Somalis that I know, my friends, our cousins, um, the people that we know.
I don't know a single loser who's Somali in my life. All of
Yeah,
us are. That's why I'm always suspicious of this. I'm not suspicious of the social housing statistics because, you know,
we're a very new community. We were
we're a
refugees,
new
but
community.
20 years ago.
Yeah, but there's also another part of our community that we do need to get onto, the ones who are here even in the 1800s, and they make
Okay.
up. No,
Yeah.
yeah, people from Somaliland who did come here way before we did, and they do make up the majority of
That brings us to the next topic when it comes to the image of the Somali community in the US and in the UK. It's really unfortunate. It is really unfortunate, but I don't even think they would appreciate us using terms like we and us. But there is another Somali community that has been working very hard to spread really harmful stereotypes about what they call Somalians, which is like the have you I don't know if is it Chris Rock that's or is it Eddie Murphy that said that there's the N word with an ER and an N word with an A. And the N words with the ER is like the slur.
No, I think
Uh,
Chris Rock said there are black people and then there are N-words.
oh, okay.
And they're basically our
They're
northern
saying that
brothers. Yeah.
they're saying that we are the N words with an ER.
Yeah, I think Somaliland. No, no, no. I'm gonna be blunt. I do think that a lot of the hatred towards us can only come from people who are within the wider community, and
Yeah. I think you'd
it
call that
definitely
a native informant.
it's native informant, but also it's quite, they're playing a very dangerous game here. They're adding to Islamophobia. They're doing everything like the most important thing is throwing Palestinians under the bus with the recent recognition of so-called Somaliland by Benjamin Netanyahu's administration. Israel being the only country in the world that's recognized Somaliland officially. But I just didn't want to talk about this without mentioning how a lot of this has come from many of our own people. And that to me is quite sad and depressing. And it feels like a massive betrayal. And I don't want to censor myself on this podcast by pretending like it doesn't exist. I think we have censored ourselves a lot because we were never raised to be tribalists. We're not
Mm.
tribalists. We're not low IQ people. I'm sorry, but that's just not our mentality. But us acting in good faith doesn't mean that they're going to act in good faith. So I do think in 2026 we do need to be prepared for more of in Somalia, they marry children over there in Somaliland. That's not how it is. Like in Somalia, they have, women are treated like this. In Somaliland, this is how it's playing into blatant anti-Islam. And I'm not even going to say anti-Muslim, it's anti-Islam. And the thing that bothers me most, I'll stop ranting about that in a second. It's just, they're allegedly the more, sophisticated that what they allege that they are the more sophisticated versions of us. But I've always wondered, like, if your ancestors came to the United Kingdom in the 1800s and you've been here arguably a lot longer than Somalis from mainland Somalia, why are you still waving a foreign flag in the United Kingdom? Why are you lobbying for a foreign state's interest in the United Kingdom? Why does your flag have the Islamic Declaration of Faith on it, even though you weaponize anti-Islam talking points and you ally with anti-Muslim commentators? To me, I think that there needs to definitely be more of a Britain first, not in the,
No racist sense.
not in a racist way, but in the way that America first is operating, where it's hang on a minute. You guys had way more time to integrate than we did. We've only been here for 3 decades. Why do so many of you guys still care so much about a country that you don't live in? I thought the United Kingdom was the only country that you're supposed to be invested in. I find that quite funny that I feel like I'm way more invested in the United Kingdom than I am in any other country because it's the country that took us in, it's the country that we live in, it's the country that we pay taxes in. English is the main language that we speak fluently. It's our first language. So I do hope that Somalis from mainland Somalia, and also it's quite funny that we have to say our Somaliland allies, that the good ones, that they also take note of this because I always thought if you sorry, my camera's just turned off, but I'm still here. That if you were from this country, then you need to advocate for Britain and British interests, not obsessing over foreign interests. So that's the angle that I'm sort of going with because I think that is the priority. But anyways, we needed to bring that up, especially to our non-Somali listeners. In a nutshell, Somalia is a country. Somaliland is a breakaway, semi-autonomous region, predominantly one tribe. They want to be their own independent country. They left Somalia a long time ago. I completely acknowledge and respect that. No one should be forced to be with someone that they don't want to be with. But in order to get their independence, they've had to do some really dirty things in order to do that. And these are things that have really great ramifications, not just for Somali people, including themselves, but also for Palestinians, further legitimizing the state that is committing a live stream genocide against Palestinians, which I thought was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But the past week, seeing people from Somaliland literally prostrating and praying on top of an Israel flag and praising Benjamin Netanyahu and wearing the Israel flag as a hijab, nothing has disgusted me more than that in my entire lifetime as a Somali. So I do think, as Somalis, in the UK, and also the ones in America, we do need to keep a close eye on that and try and get ahead of the information war before it gets bad. So summary, Somalilanders make up the majority of Somalis in the United Kingdom. If Somalis are seen as a drain on the resources with the social housing, then we're all contributing to that ultimately, not just us lot. And also, just generally speaking, there's a lot of conversations that we do need to be more confident in having without being afraid, because we're all in this together. This is a very worrying far right you know, there's a worrying far right sentiment in the UK.
Mhm.
And I do think, as people of color and white people who care about people of color, we all need to just be a little bit wiser on this and not be foolish, not be too hasty in throwing each other under the bus. But we also need to call a spade and be honest about things. We're not going to go down easily, is what I'm trying to
No,
say.
no, you're speaking all the right things, and I agree with you. I think we do need to be more assertive. I think what most Somalis haven't observed is this, because this alliance between Israel and Somaliland hasn't come as a surprise, by the way. There's been hints of it, there's been direct insinuation from Somaliland leadership, and you'll have to understand a lot of the Somaliland diaspora are also advocates for the Somaliland government. And the I think the quite respectable quest for independence. I support it, you support it. Most people, most Somalis from Somalia support it. It's just the means to seek that independence and recognition has sometimes.
Another thing I wanted to mention as well is we've always found it quite lame and cringe and embarrassing to get involved in Somali politics as young Somalis in the UK. We've been way more invested in local British politics. Like, we've campaigned for British politicians ultimately, because we recognize that that's the country that we live in. But I was just thinking there needs to be more that we need to do. We need to be a little bit ahead of the game in obviously continuing to put the United Kingdom first and recognizing that this is where we live, but also connecting more with other Somalis, people who originate from Somalia, who are acting in good faith, and keeping a close eye on that, just because I do think it is a bit concerning.
Mm. We're
And
not we're not organized because we don't have a political objective outside of the UK, like you mentioned. But maybe we do need to be organized internationally as well, because this is a global movement to make the conditions of Somalis in the West as uncomfortable as possible, because we're a political football for the right wing now, because they're failing in their economic goals of making affordability achievable for their base. So what
I
do? They
don't,
resort
yeah,
to base racism.
I don't want us to end up politically like the GRT community, you know, genuinely demonized with practically little to no representation that is
Mm-mm.
collective and organized and articulate and cohesive and
Yeah,
coherent. We need to
yeah.
be a little bit more like American Somalis, who are doing things, even though they're taking the heat at the moment, they're still doing things a million times better than we are, because the only visible Somali voices in the UK tend to be secessionists. The ones who are anti-Somali are the ones who are pro-Israel. So we do need to be a bit smart about that. So we're just going to park that for a second. I wanted to give some context to people who are not Somali or people who are Somali and wanted to hear about this. But that I do think that the past couple of weeks on X, I thought I was going crazy. The amount of anti-Somali videos and tweets that I saw did make me leave the app, just
Mhm.
because it's getting a bit much. And I've always
26 tweets in one day by
who?
Elon, 26 tweets in one day by Elon Musk were about Somalis.
And this is the richest guy in the world, someone who is basically Lex Luthor, but the apartheid version of that. And I do think next year, inshallah, I do want to get more involved in being more visible as a Somali, and genuinely, I don't know, being more firm in that balance of loving this country, the UK, and also wanting everything that's best for the UK and wanting myself to have a good future here, whilst also advocating for ourselves the way that I'm sorry, but like the way even trans people do, the way that gay people do, the way that Jews do, the way that the way that Pakistanis do.
Every other demographic does it, but we don't for some reason. We're too focused on our businesses, I'm not talking about the daycare centers, at least in the UK, it's restaurants. And I saw an interesting video actually by someone talking about how Somalis in the UK were really well known in the 2000s for bringing about internet to communities through
Mhm.
the internet cafes. Who remember those?
I used to
Um,
love going to internet
do you
cafes.
remember we used to get the little tickets for £1? But yeah, we're just focused on minding our business, sending money home. There's a huge remittance economy that we contribute to, and just yeah, minding the business that pays us. And that has resulted in us being completely beholden to the Labour Party, I think, like most Muslim communities. And then after the genocide in Gaza, I think we're now somewhat free agents, but like every other Muslim community, that means that we're quite fractured. But we do need to be a little bit more assertive in
Assertive
fighting back
and
against these claims.
fighting back against these claims, but also making it very clear that we are a part of the Muslim community and that we are connected to the
Yes,
community. We're not just one isolated community. We are one part of a massive body in the United Kingdom.
yeah,
There's that activist online. I know she's very controversial, but her name's Bushra Sheikh. She was on The Apprentice. She's
yeah,
very, very, I know she's controversial and I know she's hit and miss, and I don't agree with her on many things. I remember that she threw Caribbeans under the bus about
yeah.
the South London
The hair shop.
the hair shop, because it was a Pakistani guy that attacked
Mm.
a black woman. Um, I wish it wasn't her that was defending us, but we need to see more people from the Muslim community who are not Somali who are defending us.
And I
Um,
think we are seeing that, thankfully. There were some counter protests in Birmingham because Birmingham, like we mentioned, a lot of Somalilanders came out to celebrate recognition, and some were waving Israeli flags. And I think that's a bit brazy to do in the capital of Muslim Britain,
could you
aka
repeat that
Birmingham.
clearly for a second? There was a protest, there was a
No, it wasn't a
celebration in
protest.
Birmingham.
Yeah, it was a celebration in Birmingham the day after the recognition by Benjamin Netanyahu of Somaliland by local Somalilanders in Birmingham, waving the Somaliland flag, but also some Israeli flags. And of course, Birmingham is known as a capital of Muslim Britain. There were some counter protests that happened afterwards by the local Muslim community, Pakistanis mainly. So yeah, we're already seeing some pushback.
And it's good, like what a way to, but then like for shame for the people who did that celebration in Birmingham, because what a way to introduce yourself to other people who didn't really know about your project, you know?
I think they did know. I don't think you'll meet many Somalilanders who won't tell you.
No, but many people are not bothered to listen or care. So that this is actually
Okay, that's true.
the biggest introduction has been that. And that's just been such a huge L for them because now you've got basically Zionist nonces on your side. And then on the other hand, you've got all of Gen Z who've been standing toe to toe with Palestine. they now associate you with beings like how that's their introduction. You're never going to
Mm.
get that PR back, but it is what it is. Anyways,
It is really unfortunate because Somaliland is born, like a lot of Somalis in the 80s, but especially Somalilanders, was born out of oppression and mistreatment. And so you would have people on side if you focus on that. But instead, you're siding with someone who's actively committing a genocide. And we haven't mentioned this, but the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu has recognized Somaliland isn't because he recognizes their struggle and cares about them a jot. He doesn't. It's because it provides Israel with access to Yemen. Somaliland is on obviously the Horn of Africa, but closer to the top, closer to Djibouti, and more importantly, closer to landing distance of Yemen and the Houthis. And the Houthis in Yemen have been the only ones who've been actually able to disrupt global commerce because of the genocide. And they're going to be threatened by Somaliland. I hope not. I hope not. And also to pawn off some Palestinian so-called refugees. They're not refugees, they are displaced people.
yeah, if one Palestinian is sent to Somaliland, that will be one of the biggest stains on the Muslim
Yeah.
world for all eternity. I don't think that's a stain that will ever be able to be washed out. Anyways, I
No.
don't really want to talk about them anymore. I'm kind of bored of that. I was kind of grossed out by it, but it is what it is. The past 2 years, we've seen sh more shocking things happen, more evil things happen. And there's always going to be opportunism everywhere. So I wanted to ask you, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing to wrap this up really. Um, I think just my observation is I think this is not going to work. We haven't seen this declaration of recognition from Israel be followed up, as you would expect, with multiple other countries recognizing Somaliland in agreement. However, we've seen mass condemnation from the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, which is most of the Muslim world, all of the Arab League states except for one, UAE, which is basically Arab Israel, and Morocco, interestingly, which is basically a client state of the UAE and Israel at this point. But their silence is more interesting because they haven't followed up with their recognition the next day, as you would expect. I think they're on the back foot now because we've also seen yesterday Saudi Arabia target UAE forces in Yemen. They shouldn't be there, but I digress. And bombed a shipment that the UAE had brought to Yemen because they're supporting a secessionist group in South Yemen as well. They want to break up lots of countries. Um, but yeah, I think I think we're seeing the end of Zionism is what my observation is.
We need Daddy Erdogan to do his thing.
I don't think
Erdogan.
Daddy Erdogan it really has the stones to do anything. Turkey's work and cooperation with Israel is completely unnoticed, but it's very, very active, and
Yeah, and
they talk a good game.
They work through Azerbaijan to do the dirty work. So
Exactly,
it is
exactly.
what,
There,
yeah,
there are so many flights between Istanbul and Tel Aviv that it's, I
it's all
think they're second
performative.
rate.
I know the whole Muslim world thing is performative. So wanted to talk. So what are you looking forward to politically in the new year? This is a very political, this isn't a self-care one. This isn't about our lives. I wanted to make this very political. So in the new year, what are the three things that you're thinking that like what are your three things that you're concerned about and three things you're hopeful for?
I'll start with what I'm hopeful for. I'm hopeful for a readjustment of the Arab world. I think we're seeing people slowly, quickly waking up to the fact that the UAE are a force of evil in foreign policy. So I'm looking forward to that being noticed more. I'm looking forward to a growing rift between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. I guess that's connected, so maybe I shouldn't mention that. Um, I'm hoping for an end to the slaughter in Sudan. Um, and in terms of good stuff, um, oh, good stuff. Now there's where I fall short. What am I looking forward to?
I thought
There
that
is
was what you
nothing.
were looking forward to. You kind of said it in that way, in
Oh
a
yeah, no,
way.
I'm looking forward to that. Sorry, but I meant what am I looking forward to in the UK? Sorry, I'm struggling to find things to look forward to in the UK.
In the UK, what I'm looking forward to is I hope that there's a snap election.
No, why?
I hope that there's a snap election just to, it's kind of like when you're suffering in pain. I'm like, just, if you see an animal suffering, just shoot it, you know?
What do you think will
Um,
happen?
I think that reform wouldn't become the government, but they would gain a lot of seats similar to the Lib Dem level of seats, like 60 something.
Mm, mm,
And I think it would shake a lot. It'd shake Labour to its core.
mm.
I think having certain wins like Ilford, like getting rid of like Wes Streeting's seat, him being an MP in that seat, not him personally, but just that kind of thing, like big MPs losing their seats. We kind of need that reignitement. Another thing politically that I'm looking forward to is Somalis being more united and being having more decorum in how we deal with things
Mm.
politically and having the right representatives, as in young, articulate, intelligent Somalis, and no more older boomer Somalis in charge of anything. That's another thing that I'm looking forward to. And then I guess the third thing is, are
Should we
we
should we should we start something? Maybe we should start a real APAC Somali style.
some pack? Yeah. Also, just I wanted to say, hopefully I can timestamp this for whoever this is. But there's someone, we have a listener called Selma, and I promised that I would give her a
Oh
shout out.
yeah.
So
Shout out to Selma.
Selma, thank you so much. Selma, hopefully, I don't know that we are aligned on what we've discussed today. It's really hard to tell. So, Selma, thank you for being a listener, and yeah, we appreciate you. I wanted to say, yeah, so in terms of Sompak and having, Somali APAC, that would be quite funny. I do believe in not lobbying for other countries, only protesting against genocides, but not lobbying for other countries.
Good point. Good point.
I do think it's important for us to be rooted as much as we can in the country that we've lived in and to reclaim our love and connection to this place without,
Yeah.
it's complicated.
No,
So
I
there's
agree. I
that.
think we're living in an era where we're being delegitimized every day, and I think we need to lay roots as hard as possible, man.
Yeah, so there's that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also hoping that we have some kind of local elections. I think that there might be local elections in 2026. So I hope that
Mm,
in the UK we have local elections because that would be a really great message to send out to the Labour Party. But
yeah.
then it could send out a message to the Labour Party that makes them more right wing. So we don't know. We just hope that it's a good, balanced message where they know what to do with immigration in one way, but then also to that they've been rejected by us as well. I want them to know that they've been resoundingly rejected by
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of areas that some of the most prominent right-wing tossers of MPs for that are so vulnerable to a Green or independent takeover. They should be watching their backs. Looking at Ilford.
Yeah, so there's definitely that. Um, 2026, inshallah, it gets to be a better year for everyone, but I hope that Somalis have the best year.
Yeah, we deserve it.
I don't really have anything else to say. Just guys, keep Somalis in your prayers.
Who thought we would be saying this in 2025 going into 2026? I thought things were getting easier for us as we became, more successful. This just goes to show there is no use in respectability politics. It only takes a few bad apples for your whole community to be taken down. And now I'm trying to like recall, have I ever participated in any community-wide judgments of groups? And I'm going to be honest with you, Al, I have,
I know.
I
I
have,
think that there was a couple of the Indians have had a really rough time on the
I
internet.
know, I know,
And
I know.
but we've never ever been content creators to ever antagonize Indians or anything like that. I don't think. Okay, but I don't think
I feel guilty for
no, I
some.
don't think that we've been that bad. I think that
You
every I've
haven't.
yeah, I've kept away from that probably because my best friend is from India.
No,
But
no, not India for me, but it's other groups. But yeah,
yeah, but I think that there's a difference. I think that no other community has been described as garbage by the president of the most
correct,
powerful country
correct.
of in the world. So I'm gonna have to say that we have the biggest victimhood claim at the moment. So,
We do, we do, we do. I mean, the Haitians had it pretty bad with the eating cats and dogs, but
yes.
he really persisted with this Somalis being garbage trope.
Well, we know kind of what the reason why they've gone after Haitians, the same reason why they've gone after us. There's something very audacious about Somalis, the
Mm,
audacity to be independent. And Haitians have been punished ever since they fought for their own independence from the French. I
correct.
think that there's always a resentment to groups who did not become subservient. So Haitians and
Yeah.
Somalis, maybe we need to collaborate, and I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe we
We
can
need to
maybe
get Wyclef Jean on the pod.
absolutely. So yeah, I'm done. Thank you all for listening. I hope everyone has a great 2026 and Happy New Year!